Oh my God, look at the damage. Look at the damage. I mean, this is my back area right here. We have siding all over the place. Look at the siding. Jeez.
2020 is the 6th year in a row where 10 or more weather catastrophes have cost $1 billion each. In 2019 and 20, 2,700 tornadoes killed 120 people. 2020 had a record-breaking 12 hurricanes, as well as a massive windstorm cutting across southeast Dakota all the way to Ohio. Flooding lasting longer than 7 months and destroying $3 billion worth of property. In 2020, 56 Americans lost their lives to flooding. 2 frigid blizzards put over 150,000 people out of power in the middle of winter. 4 major wildfires destroyed 22,000 structures and killed over 100 people in 2019. And in 2020, the nation watched as 13 million acres were burned to the ground. Tens of thousands of pets and farm animals have been lost or killed. Thousands of businesses bankrupt. Since the beginning of its occurrence, the pandemic known as COVID-19 has killed over 500,000 people, and it's still happening. All of these statistics were just the continental United States.
So why are we never prepared? Why do some of us not survive? And why is recovery often so painful? I'm Les Stroud, and I want to help you survive natural disasters.
Here's Hurricane Michael. He's here. He's hitting the Panhandle area.
A lot of people just don't think it'll happen to me.
It's basic human nature not to want to think about things that will scare us.
I mean, all you can hear is the roaring of this hurricane.
The communities really need to understand when a disaster is actually imminent. Being able to then recognize that, hey, I'm in harm's way. What needs to happen? That can't be something that happens, after the fact. That you really have to start working and building before that disaster happens to truly be ready.
Well, when the warnings are coming, that's when everybody goes, I should probably go get some milk and some bread. And if people would just get those basic supplies.
A lot of people weren't preparing. Then it became a mad dash for what was left of supplies.
If you wait until you need to be prepared for something, you're already too late.
Anybody want to know what it's like during a hurricane? This is what it's like during a hurricane.
It felt apocalyptic. Maybe didn't know everything that was going on, but you had a pretty good idea to absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you're just there, stuck.
Yeah.
You just
no radio,
yeah.
No TV, just what you had in your little area.
What's that like? What's that feel like? Oh, it's just
lonely.
Yeah, and it's scary because you don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know if someone's going to come in a tree on your house and take one of you out. You don't know if it's going to start a fire somewhere. Yeah, and nobody could come and help you if it did.
We had a next door neighbor. We didn't know how they were doing because we couldn't get to them.
And you couldn't see. You couldn't see anybody.
We couldn't see them. We couldn't get to them.
Even on our deck, you could see the table, but you couldn't see beyond that.
I think it's important that we look at how we prioritize the limited funding to ensure that we have and can build a comprehensive emergency management program.
It doesn't take that much effort, and it really goes a long way. It's that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Even if the emergency services perform exactly as they were designed to perform, there will be a lag time. And within that lag time, you are vulnerable.
Having and maintaining home survival storage could not be an easier place to start. It's a little bit of an investment, yes, but doing so gives you your own insurance policy for survival. Start by having containers that, if not waterproof, at least are water resistant. I like to have varying sizes. It enables me to stay a lot more organized that way. But what do you put in them?
If I know enough about where I live, then I know that water's my #1 priority.
Not just to drink, but to wash and prepare your food and sanitation.
A lot of websites and different agencies will recommend 3 days to as much as a 2-week supply of food and water. But I say, if you can afford it and if you have the space, why not double that to a month per person? It's nowhere near as daunting as it sounds. The last thing you want to be doing is running around filling up pots.
I think it was the day before we filled up that night the bathtub.
Froze the gallon bags of water just to, one, that helped us keep cool, and then you also have water to drink as well. Fill up your tubs, fill up everything, as much water as you can get, because you never know when you're going to be without power and not be able to take showers, good drinking water, And luckily, we have a pool, so we were able to utilize that to bathe in.
Now, how much water each person needs obviously will depend upon the person and where you are and the circumstances. But generally speaking, allow for a gallon a day. 7 gallons in a week for one person, 2 weeks, 14 gallons. Let's round that up to 15. 15 times 2 to fill out a month, 30 gallons per person per month. For pets, you might want to add another 1/4 gallon of water per pet per day. Remember, they will be as stressed as you are. And I keep it labeled properly so I can keep the water fresh and purified.
Don't trust small plastic water bottles for storage. The plastic breaks down on the inside in just a few months. And don't forget, you'll need to purify your water if it's not from city supply that has been treated with chlorine.
Your local government actually wants you to stay alive. They want you to be prepared because they know when a disaster strikes, they can't be everywhere at once. So they need you to save yourself long enough for them to save you. So all of their websites have exact lists of what you will need.
What are the things that you need on a daily basis that, if you didn't have them, would be a bad deal?
Now, the good news is you're going to make it entirely personal based on your and your family's needs. But the most important thing is to customize your home survival to fit your life, your lifestyle. Simply put, if you don't like lentils, don't put lentils in your survival kit.
What do I have where? Is it easy to get to? If I had to leave quickly, if this is a tornado, could I do that? If I had to hunker down, do I have enough toilet paper? Just think through those things. Diapers, baby formula.
But you have a nice warm meal, it can improve your morale substantially.
And we've always, all of our life, kept at least 2 weeks of food on hand in the house.
And have some fun food too, maybe have some chocolate bars and some cookies and stuff like that. Give yourself a boost.
List out on paper a menu lasting 3 months, followed by a shopping list. Involve your family in the process. Make it fun, but do it. You can purchase your survival food over a long period of time so you don't notice the cost. Each time you shop over the next year, add 1 or 2 items designated to go into your emergency storage. If you buy 1 or 2 cans of tuna, buy 3 or 4. If you purchase a 12-pack of toilet paper, pick up a second one. In much shorter time than you think, you'll have a 1-month supply or more stored up and ready.
Keep extra cans of food when you go grocery shopping, and that's something you can have as a little bit of peace of mind.
Don't forget as well to date and label your containers.
What else should you have with you at home in preparation for a disaster? You'll need toiletries and hygiene supplies and general medication, such as painkillers. Start now and keep a tally of how much of these you would normally use in a week or a month.
Establish some emergency contacts that live outside of the danger zone. People you can contact to notify that you're okay. Maybe that you're on your way. Caution them if you have pets in tow. But remember, it also may be impossible to communicate with the outside world.
And I just remember laying there underneath that table, just gripping it and sitting on the floor and with the dogs. And My Greyhound Cookie's just kind of frozen in place underneath the table. Binky's just hanging out. You know, Binky's my little beagle mutt, but just chilling. And they seem okay, but I remember I was more scared for them. Like I was hanging on to them and just trying to be like, stay under here, stay under here.
The kind of golden rule when you talk about pets and natural disasters is if something is not safe for you, then it's not going to be safe for your pets. Making an emergency kit with food, water, carrier, any sort of medications that your dog need. If you're bringing your family in because there's a storm coming, bring your dog in too. Just like your family's going to be upset and they're going to be nervous, your dog's going to be nervous. If you bring the dog inside, it's mostly just making sure that it's dog-proof in a sense where they're not, especially if they're in the rooms that they're not used to being in, keeping away anything that's poisonous or hazardous to their health. Putting in one of their dog toys or something like that that's familiar, again, just keep them calm. Vaccination records for rabies and things like that. Having a picture of your dog available, as well as any sort of markings that are unique to your dog. There's going to be these centers sent up with hundreds of dogs that are there. And so being able to really quickly say, it's the chocolate lab, it's got a little white patch right on the shoulder here, is going to really expedite the process and make it easier for the people who have these dogs to be able to find them. You can have the microchip and have it not be effective if your dog is out there on its own, it hasn't been found yet, it's found by somebody who doesn't bring it into a vet to get scanned. That's kind of one of the misconceptions of, oh, I just put a microchip in and it's fine. But it's only fine when they get to somebody who can read it. And that's why it's also really critical to have a dog tag with a phone number, because the vast majority of the time, whoever is going to find your dog is going to be able to read that, but not a microchip. And what people don't realize that it's a passive chip that only is activated with that scanner to give a number. That's great if when your dog gets brought into an ASPCA or someplace where they can read that. If it's out in the woods, that chip is totally useless. And so you're going to need something like a GPS tracker, something that's more active that you can actually locate your dog. It's a little GPS tracker that sits on the collar, and it has a cell connection in it, has a GPS chip, and you're able to basically specify a zone, your safe zone. As soon as your dog leaves that safe zone, you get a ping. And you can also, there's a track option, which basically has much more rapid GPS pings where your dog is going so that you can go pick it up and bring it back.
Make sure you have multiple contacts set up well ahead of time, whose main concern will be your pets.
Who needs glasses? Who needs batteries for their hearing aids? Who has medication?
People need to keep their medicines on hand. And that's really important because a lot of people were calling the police department saying, I'm out of my heart medicine, what do I do?
Being able to provide information to folks that might have access and functional needs. We didn't even talk about that, right? So how do we address and deal with folks that have access and functional needs in a disaster environment?
When it comes to children, store food they like and keep some age-specific games and toys. They'll need to be distracted during a stressful time.
One of the things that I think saved our sanity, we had enough games, 6, 7, 8 decks of cards.
Yes.
Basically just trying to stay entertained.
Without electricity.
Without electricity. So card games, board games, be very thankful for the solar lanterns.
Communications will be vital. You need to consider how we reach the world outside of the disaster zone. Your phone company's towers may be down. Your internet may be out. You may want to consider getting to know your local amateur radio operator.
As a bare minimum for your equipment kit, flashlights with lots of spare batteries stored separately to protect from corroding, a first aid kit, a knife or multi-tool, strong tape, strong rope, a battery, hand-cranked and/or solar-powered weather radio. You may also lose the use of your toilet. If so, you've got to consider an alternative. Keep a separate waterproof box with all your legal papers such as insurance and marriage certificates, birth certificates and passports, and extra cash in case the bank machines are down. And as an extra step, you can take photographs of your important paperwork as well to store in the cloud or on a separate hard drive.
Taking photographs and or video of your house beforehand so that when you're documenting the damage to the insurance company, you say, hey, this is what it looks like after the storm. This is what it looked like before the storm.
A home standby generator like this is ideal. It'll run this whole house, but it's pricey. So start small. Figure out what your absolute needs will be. You may be content with just being able to operate your refrigerator. Either way, some form of home standby power generation, be it through solar or propane or gas or battery, is ideal in a blackout.
On a Friday afternoon when you come home from work, turn off the main breaker to your house. See what it takes to live in your house without electricity over the weekend.
If you must travel and you drive, you'll do well to prepare your vehicle.
Disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods probably, where there's debris everywhere, you're going to get a lot of flat tires. Have one of these puncture kits that has the tire plugs in them. They're really easy to use. And then I also recommend having one of these small compressors. Spend a little bit of money and get a nicer quality one, because the cheaper ones, they may work a time or two before they burn out.
Whether or not to evacuate is an incredibly personal choice to make. Do you know where you and your entire family can even go? It's hard to leave, no one is denying that. But waiting and attempting to leave later is almost always worse.
I didn't go to bed till 4 or 5 a.m. And there was one particular friend that was actually having a panic attack in her home. And at 3 a.m., before the 12 p.m. landfall, she wanted to get out of her house with 6 dogs and a partner and go find a hotel somewhere. And I said, that time has passed. The time to evacuate has passed. I cannot tell you to get on the road to maybe find a hotel, which I can probably guarantee you won't. They're all booked 8 hours, northwest, east, south, all over you. And you will be stuck on the highway as this thing rolls in with all your dogs in the car. You have to hunker down now. The time to hunker down is now. And I remember her last message was, am I gonna die?
Too many people don't prepare to evacuate soon enough. And so they end up scrambling and grabbing whatever they can and getting in the car.
So I put 2 changes of clothes. I didn't even pack like my medication, a hairbrush. Like I just sort of chucked, a couple things in a bag. We were going to Grandpa's, it'll be fun.
You and I, if a hurricane was coming down and we're going to be impacted and we needed to evacuate, we could say, oh, well, you know what? I'm in New Jersey, which is east of Pennsylvania. I can go west. I'll jump in my car, take my family, stay in a hotel for a week. There's a lot of folks that don't have that resource. They don't have that ability. And those are the folks that we see that get stuck in shelters, for example. They have nowhere to go or no other resources. So they're at a shelter for a long time. I observed that during Superstorm Sandy.
Well, when you're told to get out, you sort of grab things, and it makes you wonder the kinds of things that you grabbed. Like in my case, I grabbed my passwords for the computer. Now what's that about? Tom grabbed the computer and the iPad. And basically, no clothes. I think we slept in clothes the first couple of nights.
How were you prepared?
We weren't prepared. We had maybe a change of underwear. We didn't even grab all the medications we should have. It's just strange what comes into your mind, we're religious people. Probably somebody would have grabbed groceries, never even thought of groceries. I grabbed my daily reflection books, but that was it.
Lay out a map and learn the possible evacuation routes well before the need arises.
When you think about folks that may have less resources, right, their priorities are paying some of the bills, getting food on the table, taking care of their children, things like that. And they may not have the resources or even a vehicle to travel. In urban areas, certainly there's public transportation and there's things like that, but during a natural disaster with wind speeds that could be picking up, there's a lot of times where things are rerouted, or those folks might not have that information or know where to get that information to understand what those changes are.
Here's a good rule of thumb in case you have to leave and take survival supplies with you. It may not be you or someone with a lot of muscle strength who has to pick up these supplies and carry them outside. It may be an 8-year-old child. Don't make your survival supplies too heavy. Anything that you think needs charging that would be helpful during a disaster, charge it now. Lastly, when it comes to your home survival storage, don't forget a can opener, and don't forget disposable plates and cutlery.
Let's recap your preparations. Water, food, toiletries and medications, seniors and access issues, children, pets, basic emergency equipment, communications, travel, legal paperwork and cash, car preparations, house preparations including emergency electrical power, Evacuation procedures.
If we don't know what we're facing, we can imagine something infinitely worse.
When we return, I'll take you to the eye of the storm.